You're listening to Australia's national youth radio station, Triple J. For more info, go to triplej.net.au.
Thanks to the intervention of the ABC Board and the generous support of the Macquarie Bank, Triple J reluctantly presents the following 2 hours of unbiased, fair and balanced coverage of the week's topical issues. Would you please be upstanding for the national anthem? And your hosts, Stirling Addison LLB and guest, as we present Restoring the Balance.
Good evening and welcome to Restoring the Balance. My name is Stirling Addison. They say that in war, truth is the first casualty. It would also appear to be the first casualty in the absence of Richard Kingsmill. So tonight I seek to straighten the record on his absence of 2 weeks. He was not, as Carolyn Tran has told everyone at home, sweating on the results of a herpes test for the last 2 weeks. He was, in fact, and he won't tell you this himself, and no doubt didn't during the course of his show, he was, in fact, in hospital, recovering from injuries he received in a barroom brawl. Now, the altercation started when Kingsmill engaged himself in conversation with a fellow music fan. They got to chatting. Now, while they both agreed on the visionary and trailblazing talent of a band called Bowling for Soup, they both disagreed sharply over the issue of singer David Campbell. Kingsmill, a huge fan, but you won't hear him say it, he is a huge fan, and he claimed that the greatest work of David Campbell is still before him. Kingsmill's newfound friend, however, disagreed, saying that Campbell had peaked with his covers of swing classics. The altercation then ensued. Kingsmill, of course, was beaten, and beaten soundly, which would have taken no more than a wet lettuce leaf. Such are the reasons for his non-appearance for the last 2 weeks. Restoring the Balance, however, we continue, we turn up to work in suits and to give you 2 hours of unbiased conservative commentary. Coming tonight, Peter Hartcher will tell us how John Howard will win the 2007 federal election. In the greatest coup yet for Restoring the Balance, we will be speaking with Australia's most respected broadcaster, Alan Jones. And of course, tonight I will be joined by Spencer Penrose of the Family First Party. That and more is ahead in the next 2 hours of conservative commentary here on Restoring the Balance on Triple J. At last, conservative commentary on the ABC, rather than the standard issue 22 hours of left-wing untruth, lies. Spencer, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and Angels on your body.
Yes, Stirling. Spencer, of course, from the Family First Party, a committed Christian. Yes. That would almost get you kicked off the air here at the ABC.
Why is it not a badge of honour?
Well, it's not. It's not, although you will occasionally find a picture of the head of the Church of England, the Queen of England, which is a good thing, obviously, at the ABC.
Absolutely.
Spencer, how has your week been?
Quite a pleasant week, thank you, Stirling. I went to a bit of a bon voyage for Amanda Vanstone in Adelaide. A fine woman and a great Australian.
Yes.
Just small drinks and finger food. And I did leave before the pinata came out. But now Italy are just going to have one of our best nestled in their bosom.
Yes.
And I hope they treat her well. Interesting also as well that we've had some rather significant rains around the country this week. Now, granted, while I would like to say it's probably a result of our fine Prime Minister getting everybody to pray for rain.
The faith-based solution to the drought that we talked about last week.
Yeah, I mean, he has that much swing in the heavens that I'll be more inclined to say that it's the heavens opening. It's the country weeping for the loss of one of our best and brightest.
Amanda.
I mean, our loss is Italy's gain. I mean, all we can hope is, I guess, one day the Italian Immigration Department might be as inspired as Vanstone's department were and do a bit of a Cornelia Row on her.
Yes.
And only that one day will we get her back, maybe that way.
Yes, it would be a crime of passion rather than maladministration. I will say this, though, and this is perhaps the most oppressive incident surrounding the departure of Amanda Vanstone. Do you think if you search the country high and low, you would find a thank you card from the inmates of Baxter to her?
No.
You wouldn't?
No, they wouldn't be thinking that way.
You wouldn't?
No. It's ungrateful.
It's ingratitude at its gravest. Of course, it has been a big week in politics. Of course, the ALPs they've just missed out on the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Yes, they have.
But not to be outdone, they've tacked theirs on the end. It's national conference time.
It's called the Inexperience Experience.
Yes.
It's like a huge stage show. Kevin Heaven.
Yes.
The ALP this weekend. Wasn't it great?
It was
songs and jokes, and
yes.
I think Carrie Ann came out to help him dance to a bit of a tap.
It was typical ALP politics of playing the man, not the issue. Vicious, personal vendettas run against the Prime Minister, who is a wartime leader and should therefore be above personal and political attacks.
It was mudslinging of the highest magnitude. Kevin Rudd is his own dirt unit.
And it was only because of recent rains that there was mud to sling.
Indeed. Brought on by our Prime Minister.
Yes.
Either that or, indeed, the heavens opening and weeping for the loss of Amanda Vanstone.
Yes. Now, of course, we noted with interest the Labor Party again attempting, and the Australian people are too smart to be bribed by a government or to have money thrown at them willy-nilly in any sort of middle-class welfare operation.
Too true.
The Labor Party, which is, of course, in the thrall of green lunatics, will throw $10,000 at working families. Presumably, if you have a dysfunctional family that does not work, you do not get this money. But it is $10,000 to buy things like solar heating and water tanks and pre-mixed Bundy and cola.
Is that so?
And marijuana. I've always maintained, Spencer, that Labor voters' houses are already green. Check the ceilings for the hydroponics.
Green is the key word here.
Yes.
Isn't it, though? $10,000 more efficient shower heads.
Yes.
I know that Peter Garrett during the week came out with his top 10 list of songs you should shower to.
Yes.
The two-song theory, that the shower should take no longer than 5 minutes and there should be just 2 songs played and then you get out. And he suggested a whole bunch of 10 songs. That's pretty arrogant talk coming from a man who doesn't have to shampoo.
Yes.
Because, you know, I mean, I have a thick head of hair. I mean, I call it emo style. It's a comb-over. Because when you work with the youth, as I do, the looks are a currency.
Yes.
How hip you are, it goes some way into speaking the language. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. Nevertheless, I think that Peter Garrett could be in and out in the length of a Custard song.
Yes.
Liam Lynch, United States of whatever.
Yes.
He doesn't need Friday on My Mind. He doesn't need Straight Lines by Silverchair.
Yes.
He needs something short and sharp.
I don't know any of these, but anyway, yes.
Well, it's the music of now.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. But also, Kevin Rudd and the ALP, they did vote to overturn the 25-year, the ALP 25-year policy of banning new uranium mines.
We applaud that. We applaud that.
But I didn't know. It's interesting, isn't it, how they flip-flop?
Yes.
I didn't know the principles had a half-life, Stirling.
Yes.
But apparently they do in the ALP.
Well, everything's for sale. Uranium, our policies. Just back to the $10,000.
Please.
The green bribe.
Yes.
The filthy lucre, if you will. I would urge all the fire-twirlers out there to think very carefully about the merits of this particular plan. And I would urge you to think very carefully where you would like these tax dollars to go. Is it on environmentally friendly housing or on extra private school funding? Now, think very carefully about this government money. Because, Spencer, what does a man gain if he saves his planet but deprives Melbourne Scotch College of a brand new indoor swimming pool?
This is an excellent point.
These are the judicious decisions one must make. Do not recklessly commit to Labor if you think you're going to get money, because money never solved anything.
That's true. Yeah, it certainly is a quandary, though.
Yes.
For the average voter.
Yes.
Myself, I would use the $10,000. I would obviously commit it all to the church.
Yes.
Because we have the cafe happening, as you know, the cafe happening, and we've got a new salad bar. We've got plans for a new salad bar, and those sneeze guards are quite expensive. $10,000 should set us down the road on that easy. And also probably some pyrotechnics for the Christmas show coming up. I know that we have DC Talk, the Christian rap group from the United States, swinging on by. And they come, I mean, particularly with a huge arsenal of dry ice and propane gas inflatables and whatnot. But we need some pretty good industrial military standard surface-to-air missiles to really send this thing off at Christmas time. That's what I would spend the $10,000 on.
Yes, a Rapier air defence unit.
Oh, yes. That would be a great stage show.
Well said. Now, that is money well spent, rather than chasing this green myth, the global warming myth. Our talkback topic this evening, 1300 055536, 1300 055536. If you were given $10,000 by the government, what would you spend it on? What would you spend? This is a topic well known to Triple J listeners, many of whom live thanks to the government purse.
Yes.
If you were given it in one go, would your dealer suddenly go overseas on an overseas trip because of it? Would you pay off debts?
I think the Triple J listeners are pretty au fait with the concept of money for nothing.
Yes.
I think they'd know. I think they'd have a few ideas about what to do with that 10G.
Well, ring up and surprise us, 1300 055536. How would you spend $10,000 of government money? Restoring the balance, Triple J. We are talking about the $10,000, the bribe that Prime Minister wannabe Kevin Rudd is waving in front of the electorate. The electorate cannot be bribed.
No.
The electorate are suspicious of money being thrown at them.
They are.
They are suspicious of middle-class welfare. It's not something John Howard would do, but Kevin Rudd feels compelled to destroy the budget surplus by throwing it away on this nightmarish green dream.
Well put.
Yes.
Well put, the green dream.
Yes.
It's an excellent idea.
So the plan at the moment is well, I mean, they can come up with any sort of amount of money. They're never going to get into power. But $10,000 to put a solar panel on your house or a water tank or Lord knows, to buy John Butler Trio CDs.
So this is all an extension of something that Howard did introduce, Howard and Costello.
Yes.
The first home buyers grant.
Yes.
This is merely just really building on that great work.
Yes.
It's just piggybacking on a terrific idea and putting his arms around it as if it was his own.
It's the policy plagiarism.
That's what it is.
Policy plagiarism.
Yeah.
Jason from Brisbane, if you had $10,000 given to you by Kevin Rudd, what would you do with the money? And the number, by the way, is 1300 055536. Jason from Brisbane?
Yep.
What would you do with the money?
Look, I think $10,000 would certainly extend my hydroponics setup extensively.
Yes.
And it would be really a good push to making my household carbon neutral.
Carbon neutral.
I think go with the green dream.
Go with the green dream. The massive amount of illegal electricity that you're tapping for your hydroponics, the ultraviolet light generated by the lights going 24 hours a day.
I could set up the hydroponics, and I could even buy a solar cell for the roof, so I could get some friendly electricity in there.
There we go, cash for hash.
Yes.
Now, Jason is merely representative of all the calls that we just took during that song. He is one of about 300.
Yes.
That we just took saying exactly the same thing. That's
Yes.
Triple J
It's all
listenership.
about thinking, and global warming's a big issue. We need a carbon-neutral house, and what better way to do it than have a roof full of plants?
Yes, the ALP is for THC.
Yes.
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 Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Andrew from Melbourne. Andrew, if you had $10,000 from the government, what would you do with it?
Obviously, being the conservative moderate that I am, I believe that it really should be put towards as you mentioned before, fellas, a second or third home buyers grant. Not the first. Completely scrap the first.
Yes.
I think it's just too easy to get in the market these days. They've made it way too easy. Solely now for investors, second or third housing, or at least as a bare minimum, it should be put into a capital tax offset, just to at least at some point reduce any tax payable for the middle. Not really middle, I suppose higher income earners, perhaps.
Higher.
Yes. Yes.
It's a fantastic idea. So the summer home buyers grant, the beach house buyers grant, something like that, Andrew?
Oh, it definitely should be, but maybe even cap it at the third or fourth house.
Third or fourth. Right. I would say to any home buyers who have entered in the market and found the prices are too high, it's simply a way of discovering that you haven't worked hard enough.
Exactly, I completely agree.
You simply haven't inherited wisely enough. Your share portfolio or your asset management has been poor, and you yourself are responsible for the high rents that you're paying and your general lack of adequate asset growth.
Completely, and I really back Rudd's policy here, where a way to really cap inflation is to spend more, and especially in the housing market too.
Yes.
I completely agree with his policy there.
Yes, well done, Andrew.
Excellent,
yes,
Andrew, yeah.
well said.
I like the way he thinks.
To semi-intelligent listeners, this is a first for Restoring the Balance.
There we go. What's happened?
I don't know.
Maybe this show is bringing in a higher class of listener.
Well,
to Triple J.
I think to plummet the average, we'll go to Paul from MacArthur.
Yeah.
Paul?
How you going?
There we go.
Doing well, Paul. Paul.
There you go, mate.
Good, I'm very well, Paul. What would you do with the $10,000 that the
Well,
government...
I'd have to spend some on beer, but
Yes.
I'd have to create more greenhouse gases because I want to form one of the hardest punk bands in Victoria
Yes.
to really stick it up that little termite we have as the Prime Minister.
Why is he a termite? Because he's destroyed the rotten structure that was Keating and incisive foreign policy analysis. Is that contained in your songs as well, Paul? Do you want to give your band a plug for those who hate music? What's the name of your band?
Paul,
He's not there.
maybe they're just called... He's dropped out.
Yes. He's
Of
gone,
life.
unfortunately.
Totally.
It's called... we will trace Paul's number back for those of you who want elocution lessons.
Indeed. And
Yes.
we'll pass those details on to the authorities as well.
Yes. 1300 0555 36. What would you spend $10,000 of government money on?
Restoring the balance. Supporters of the US alliance.
John Howard, of course, gets a frequent kicking on this show from an ungrateful electorate.
Seditious listeners.
Yes. A fifth column.
Yeah.
The Australian card would clear that up. We would be able to monitor people adequately. I wanted to, however, bring attention to China. There is some talk that we will negotiate a free trade pact with China.
Well, this is interesting, and of course China opened up by the late, great Richard Milhous Nixon.
Yes.
It was all his doing. You never hear about that.
No. He's a great man and certainly a hero of us on this show.
Fine conservative.
Yes. But if you go back many, many, many years, the frequent whipping stick of the left is John Howard's view on Asian immigration from about 20 years ago. These comments that he made at the time, he questioned the rate of Asian immigration. These comments were taken out of context by a degenerate journo and it damaged Howard's standing with our neighbours to the north.
Is that so?
Yes. But I ask you, on the issue of the Prime Minister in Asia, I ask you this question, Spencer. If he was so traditionally hostile to the region and to China and its people, why has he gladly seen so many Australian manufacturing jobs transferred there?
That is a fair point.
That is a form of foreign aid to the Chinese.
Yes, it is.
And an endorsement of their manufacturing policies.
It is a handshake with our neighbours.
Yes.
It's very forward-thinking.
Now, I wanted to also paint a dystopic picture, if you will, a nightmare scenario, keeping on the theme of China, because Kevin Rudd speaks Mandarin, I think. He speaks one form of Chinese.
Well, I know he takes a lot of leaves out of the Asian book.
Yes.
Certainly the cult of personality
Yes.
that he was adopting at the ALP conference. Probably, it's a little bit too Kim Jong-il for my liking.
Well, I would go a little bit to the left of that even and say Mao Zedong.
Right. I mean, I was expecting him to ask everyone to drink Kool-Aid.
Yes.
It was getting so out of hand there.
Well, it's obvious the sort of social engineering that Rudd wishes to wreak upon Australia is borrowed directly from Mao Zedong, the Chinese dictator who ruled that country for some 40-odd years after 1949, maybe 30 years. I wanted to paint a picture of Australia being run by Kevin Rudd along the lines of his idol, Mao Zedong.
Right.
And I will do that using a book called Hungry Ghost, Mao's Secret Famine. And this is what will happen. This is Australia under Kevin Rudd being run almost from the grave by Mao Zedong.
Okay.
While one brutal disaster after another will be imposed on the Australian people in the name of socialism, Rudd will remain secluded most of the time in his private residence in Canberra. He will lie in a bed all day. His teeth will be green from never being brushed. He will refuse to bathe, so instead orderlies in waiting will sponge wash his corpulent structure. Young virgin peasant girls will be brought to him from the countryside. This is true. For his carnal pleasure.
Right.
Often for group encounters.
I mean, it's no different to the present, really, Stirling. I mean, it's a frightening glimpse into the future, certainly. But I believe that's part of his backstory, isn't it?
Well,
isn't that what happened while he was living in the back of a car?
Well, apparently.
Well, that's what he's got. That's what he's got on the table anyway now.
Yes.
His opposition leader.
So, young virgin peasant girls brought to him, and he gave no thought to his having long been diagnosed with venereal disease.
Right,
that is Australia under Rudd,
and
it is a warning from us here, Restoring the Balance.
I think that. Did you hear also that Triple J listeners may or may not be aware of a spoof, or is it spoof? A spoof heavy metal band from the 80s, Spinal Tap.
Yes.
Well, they've reunited to join a campaign to save the world from global warming.
Well, if celebrities are leading
Yes.
the charge to save the world, we are in the best possible hands. Let's not listen to scientists and climate experts. If celebrities are behind it, we're all saved.
Let's see what Bruce Springsteen has to say.
Yes, or Vanessa Amorosi.
But what a better way to highlight the fake problem of global warming than having it criticised by a fake band.
Touche.
Yes. Interesting.
Touche.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, of course, the latest scare campaign being dreamed up by those on the right. I should say left. The left. There was a Freudian slip of sorts there. And we are, we're on to them, we should say. We know these things, that it's completely made up. And we are to talk about that and things along those lines with Bill Green. He's on the line at the moment. He's the founder and the president of rightmarch.com. I'll give you that address again, rightmarch.com. And he's now in the running for a US congressional campaign. This man is a grassroots hero, Spencer.
Yes.
He was sick of socialist wannabes at moveon.org, leading their coalition of 32 radical left-wing organisations, doing their virtual marches on Washington.
Right.
So he sought to counteract, as we do on this program, the tsunami of leftist untruth and deception by establishing his own website, as I mentioned. And he is on the phone now from America. Bill Green, thank you very much for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Very well, Bill. Now, could you tell us something about Right March?
Well, Right March, as you mentioned, was formed about 4 years ago in response to left-wing organizations like MoveOn.org.
Yes.
They were conducting what they called their virtual March on Washington, and this was in opposition to the war on terror. And so we brought together a coalition of conservative organizations and formed a virtual march from the right, and formed rightmarch.com as a result, and we are up to about 1 million members nationwide now.
I would say, Bill, that we do owe the people on the left a vote of gratitude for this virtual march. And I will explain it this way. If you had that many unwashed left liberals in one place, it would double the size of the hole in the ozone layer, would it not?
It might do that indeed. What's interesting is the left has sort of had a stranglehold on grassroots activism and the idea of being an activist for so long that in forming Right March, one of the things that we were trying to do was simply give an opportunity to conservatives, to folks on the right, to be able to be activists themselves, but not have to take huge chunks of time out of their lives. The difference between left and right, as you know, is that people on the right, conservatives, actually have lives, and
yes.
So they work for a living. They come home. They eat dinner with their family, watch some TV, go to bed, get up, and go to work the next day, go to church on Sunday, and don't have time to be political activists running through the streets. And so taking a couple of minutes each day to read an email, find out what's happening in Washington, D.C., and being able to then just simply click and send a message directly to their congressmen, to their senators, that's been very helpful for our members, and we've seen between 4 and 5 million messages go through our website in the last 4 years to Congress.
You mentioned those protesting the war on terror. Who in their right mind would attack the integrity of President Bush?
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of attacking President Bush. I think it's much more a matter of attacking basic values, traditional values. I think it's also a matter of, in terms of protesting the war on terror, I think there's a lot of people on the left that aren't really looking into the issue itself. They aren't really recognizing that we are involved in a global war on terror. Instead, they're sort of throwing back to the Vietnam era and simply protesting any military action or people whatsoever, and sort of wanting to get involved in a Vietnam-era style march in the streets, getting involved in stopping whatever war happens to be going, whether the war is a just war or not. So a lot of the people on the left aren't really paying attention to the actual issues. They're simply getting involved because other people are bringing them in. But in terms of whether it's President Bush or not, whether President Bush was in office or not, the war on terror would still be going on. It was going on before President Bush was in. It'll be going on probably after, just because that's what the people on the Islamo-fascist side are going to do. They hate us, they want to kill us, and therefore we have to fight back.
As we know, Bill, the left are against the war on terror, and indeed against the troops. Do you find that your website and the followers of the website are providing a constant boost to the men and women serving abroad?
Well, one of the things that we have tried to do, and I think we've been successful at, has been to try to counter the demoralization that many on the left have brought about to the troops that are in harm's way. Whatever one's opinion on the war on terror, especially in the front in Iraq or Afghanistan might be, one of the things that we should not be doing is deliberate attempts to demoralize, defund, whatever it may be, the troops that are serving in harm's way. And so we have organized a number of rallies, both across the nation and in the Capitol itself, in front of the U.S. Capitol, where we brought in Gold Star troops, Gold Star families, that is, of troops that have been killed in action, Silver Star families, troops that are in the field, and brought together Support the Troops rallies, and that's been I think it's been reported very well to the troops. One of the things we're trying to let them know is that they do have the support, that this is not Vietnam, this is not where they're going to come home and be spat upon. They're going to come home to a hero's welcome, and the people back home do support them, no matter what the liberal media may be portraying, and they do watch it. We do hear from them that this is what they see when they see Cindy Sheehan and her types marching through the streets.
Yes.
And so we're trying to counter that, and we put on a number of counter-protests even when they've been doing their marches in the streets. And so, again, trying to keep up and fight against the demoralization of the troops so that they don't feel that they're being abandoned by the people back home.
Yes, I should point out that one of the things that those of us on the right do very well is organise rallies.
Yes.
Something we're very good at and have been for the last 70 years or so. I wanted to say this, the left liberal elite, Bill, have been preaching recently a hate-filled message of gun control. Should we arm ourselves if our Conservative government in Australia is voted out?
Well, I think you should arm yourselves, whatever government you have in power. One of the things that you see throughout history that governments like to do is take away the right to bear arms of the citizens of that nation. That's one of the first steps towards tyranny.
Yes.
Any government understands, any tyrannical government understands that a well-armed population is going to be able to resist any type of tyranny that takes place. So, whether you've got a government from the left or the right in power, the people's right to bear arms should not be infringed upon. That's a right that we should have to be able to protect our families and protect our rights.
Yes, yes. Bill, we have to leave it there. Bill Green, the founder and president of rightmarch.com, an antidote to the hate-filled filth found on moveon.org. You're also running for Congress. We wish you all the best. Visit billgreenforcongress.com.
And also, Bill, if you could say hello to the team at the Grace Bible Family Fellowship, that would be great. I was there a couple of years ago, and they're lovely people.
I'll do that for you.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, y'all keep up the great work.
Oh, we intend to.
Oh, of course.
Restoring the Balance, Triple J. We've been talking tonight about Kevin Rudd's dangerous plan. Dangerous plan. It is the welfare state writ large. It is the ALP laid bare to rape the economy and to tax and spend, and to give $10,000 to pursue the idiotic dream of reducing carbon emissions in Australia.
Yes, it's just dangling candy in front of a baby, isn't it?
Yes.
Not stealing, just dangling.
Yes.
And waiting for the electorate to crawl toward it. To try and, just inflating the idea that the climate change is real. That it is something to worry about.
A dangerously false notion. Nonetheless, $10,000 being offered to green up your home.
Yeah.
We're asking, if you were given $10,000 by the government, what would you spend it on? Neil from Brisbane.
Stirling, how are you?
I'm very well. Many of our more intelligent callers come from Brisbane and from Queensland at large.
They're fine people.
Neil, how would you spend the money?
Sterling, I'd be very charitable, and I'd actually spend my $10,000 to reform the Friends of Joe organisation as a outreach program for reformed conservatives.
Reformed conservatives don't need reforming, but
I mean reformed lefties.
Reformed lefties,
new conservatives, if you will.
Yes, those that are left. You could hardly call Beattie a lefty.
No. The old undergraduate lesbian or the first-year art student who read Kerouac and thought he had something to say.
Yes, well put.
The demographic, well put. That's the one that we're after.
Yes, and of course you would march them into a camp and re-educate them as the Vietnamese communist regime did after 1975. I imagine, Neil, the first thing you'd do with said lefty is shave off the pathetic little tuft of hair underneath the bottom lip.
I'll possibly give them a shower before that. They'll delouse them at least.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
That's right. You have a box propped upright by a stick with a string attached to it, and underneath some Arnie DeFranco CDs.
Yes.
And then when they make their way towards that, you pull the string and you've got them, and then they're in the program.
Well said. Well said. Neil, and I just want to point this out. Neil, of course, a Conservative listener, is given $10,000 by the government. What does he do? He spends it for the greater good.
He's a patriot.
Yes, Triple J listeners diving for their stolen dictionaries to look up the greater good because they have no idea what it is.
Yeah,
but of course, Neil instinctively reacts in the common good, the common good.
The greater good isn't on the Wikipedia.
Yes.
It's not in the internet. It's not on MySpace with all your emo friends.
Yes. Jonathan from Sydney. Jonathan, if you were given $10,000, how would you spend it? Would it be on drugs or would it be for something worthwhile?
Certainly not ice with Kevin Rudd, but I think the greater good would be on Kirribilli House, to be honest.
What would you...
I think the upper West Wing really needs an upgrade.
Yes, it especially needed an upgrade after the Hawke and Keating years to clean the faeces off the walls and to repair the damage. Let me finish. To repair the damage caused by the methamphetamine lab that Bob Hawke had installed in the basement.
Oh, I mean, Bob Hawke, and I'm sure he had a few of Alan Bond's artwork stored down there. I'm not sure, but...
Well, not that it would matter, because I believe that Kevin Rudd came out this week and said that he wouldn't be living in Kirribilli if, in fact, he was voted, heaven forbid, if, in fact, he was voted Prime Minister. He was going to live at the Lodge in Canberra in some sort of self-righteous spray that he gave everybody, saying that he'd live at the Lodge in Canberra. But you know what? He'll tell everyone that he's living in the back of a Holden Gemini.
Yes.
In some industrial part of town, festooned by urban decay.
No one that anybody would live in Canberra, would they?
The Prime Minister would.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no.
If he could, but he has said repeatedly that things being as they are, he is compelled to live in Sydney almost against his will, and the cost of flying from Canberra to Sydney is negligible. And we should all get over it and move on, and it's a dead issue.
Sydney, as we know, is the heartbeat of this great nation.
Yes.
It is.
A gilded city. Thank you, Jonathan. Speaking of Sydney, a man who rules the airwaves there.
Yes.
This particular interview has been months and months and months in negotiation. We are finally proud, we're very proud to have him on the program tonight. He is the most vilified man in Australia.
He's up to his bottom lips in a smear campaign.
The most hate-filled vitriol is directed his way by those on the left who do not realise the good he does for society. Piers Ackerman this week came to his defence.
Yes.
As we always do, we conservative broadcasters and columnists circle our wagons and support our own.
He's constantly in the crosshairs of the dirt units of the left.
Yes, but unlike the left, he is a man who can look anyone on Struggle Street in the eye on equal terms. You can hear him every morning on 2GB radio, Do not listen to the filth spewed by Jay and the Doctor and Miff.
Right.
Listen to this man instead. He is Alan Jones. Alan, it is a pleasure and an honour. We welcome you to Triple J.
Hello, Stirling. Hello, Spencer. It's really good. I don't often listen to the public broadcast, but maybe I should. Because let me tell you, if there were more broadcasters like you on the air, I'd almost certainly be out of a job. In fact, I'd like to offer you both a job over at 2GB, the Harbour City, the Emerald City. We need more people like you.
Well, we're inclined to think that you and Ray Hadley have the situation well under control where you are, Alan. It's a very generous offer.
Well, you see, Stirling, Ray Hadley's been listening to a little bit too much John Butler trio in the office, and quite frankly, it's all giving us the shits. Yes. He knows very well just to listen to music from the Alan Jones Recommend series. For instance, the Cats Fan of the Opera double pack is fantastic listening.
I have many copies at home, and they make excellent Christmas gifts. Penny has received every one.
Is that so?
Yes. Now,
Thank you very much. That's very good listening. Yes.
Alan, you've, of course, been in the news. No one else was prepared to make a stand for those on the beach at Cronulla. Nobody else. Everyone wanted to dodge the issue.
Yeah.
There was only one person who stood up for real Australia and gave the majority a voice, and that was you.
That's right, Stirling. Well, let me tell you, these Lebanese groups that refuse to integrate into the community, they roam the streets of Cronulla with their baseball bats, which begs the question, why use an American instrument at all when a cricket bat is perfectly acceptable and 100% Australian? I think we can all agree that baseball bats are out and proud and all Australian implements are in, like the Largophone, pierced with nails and razor-sharp bolt-offs, or a boomerang machete that's quite easy to throw but a challenge to catch. And let's not forget our remarkable and beautiful fauna. Imagine a kangaroo with a pouch full of explosives, ticker tape and sequins, mouthing into a mosque and incinerating every mufti in the land with the grace and style of a marsupial Mardi Gras. And when it's all said and done, you'll be the one laughing in the face of those who are punching you in the face. And it has a certain je ne sais quoi, wouldn't you say, Sterling?
Yes, it certainly would. It certainly would.
Beautifully said. Let's talk about education performance, Alan. In particular, a lot of talk about performance pay for teachers. Where do you stand on this?
There is so much performance pay talk, isn't there? Oh, COAG. Oh, dear me. A lot of them were talking about reform and education and whether teachers' pay should be based on performance. Well, let me tell you something. When we were at school, Principal Purcell would force the boys into a cage at the tuck shop at lunchtime and make us fight to the death using nothing but a pair of old cricket stumps wrapped in plastic and soaked in lube whilst only wearing our swimming trunks and a thick layer of baby oil. You know what? I cast my mind back to those old school days and nothing was more thrilling or remarkable than paying the captain of the first 15 to the heart with a sharp and lubed up cricket stump. Right. I tell you what, COAG should be putting this back on the national curriculum. Cage fighting at lunch not only lowered the numbers of students per class at school, but it made me the man I am today. And I'll tell you this. If Principal Percival were paid by performance, he'd be a millionaire by recess. And we'd all be rewarded with a free sausage roll and a strawberry and cream after school. And that's the Australian way.
See, this is the sort of clear-headed enunciation of sensible and practical thinking that is anathema to anyone listening to Triple J. It's foreign to them. And you are the man to bring it to us every morning on 2GB. We thank you so much for joining us, Alan Jones.
Oh, let me tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure. And just give me a call, talk to my assistant, and she'll get you a double pack of Cats and Fan of the Opera. I love that.
Thank you, Alan. We have to unlock the studio door now because we did have to lock out Chris Masters.
Yes.
When Alan was on the air then. He wanted to get on and ask him a few questions.
Well, we'll not have that here. There are
not.
no copies, of course, of that tract of hatred.
It makes a lovely light, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
When you put it in the fireplace.
Yes.
Jonestown.
Yes.
Oh, it warms the cockles as well as the body.
If only Chris Masters was at the original Jonestown in Africa with all those other cult loonies. Look it up in your Wikipedia. This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J. We would like to again thank Alan Jones for appearing on the program as he did before this, and we're unable to do so, but I will do it now on behalf of all Triple J listeners, and especially Canane on this program, who has broadcast some of the most defamatory and damaging audio of Alan Jones, caught unawares, well, as Canane does to other men.
Well, indeed, and we have been running a raw feed on some of Canane's sessions.
Yes.
And indeed, maybe we should play some of them, Grabs.
We should do that next week. So we apologise to Alan Jones for that, and we thank him for his fine work as a broadcaster.
Nothing to do with us.
Yes. Well, from a giant of, you could say, the right side of politics to To somebody who has been described variously as one of Australia's leading journalists, he is the political and international editor for the Saigon Morning Herald, or Sydney Morning Herald as we call it, and was until 2004 the Washington bureau chief for the Australian Financial Review, another Fairfax paper.
Right, bad career move.
Nonetheless, we have him on the program because he has written in the quarterly essay an essay, Bipolar Nation, How to Win the 2007 Election. Because this is the ABC, we are compelled to broadcast this so that Kevin Rudd may have some clues as to how to make a fist of it later on this year when John Howard returns to power, as he will.
He needs as many as he can get.
We would like to welcome Peter Hartcher to the program. Good evening, Peter.
G'day.
Peter, now you have written this essay, How to Win the 2007 Election. You talk of mummy and daddy governments in this essay. Could you elucidate?
Absolutely. This is an idea that's been used in the US for decades now, and that is the idea that political parties have, if you like, a gender identity, that there are daddy parties and mummy parties. A daddy party, according to this thesis, is a party that is on the conservative side of politics, that is supposed to be good at daddy functions like providing security and bringing home the bacon and being a bit of a disciplinarian. But the mummy's identity is generally the left of centre party. So, of course, in the US it's the Democrats. And the mummy party is really a party that wants to give you a hug.
Yes.
It's a party that is good on service delivery. They care about education, care about health, those sort of things. And really, I was just applying that same gender identity has been applied to Australian politics, in the sense that the Liberal government is the daddy party, the mummy party, of course, is Labor.
Well, I'd stop you there. It is, of course, the single mummy party, of course, addicted to government money, constantly drunk and chain smoking, and in any given situation, derelict.
Oh well, the Democrats are going out of business.
Well, I was talking about the Labor Party, but
entertaining a variety of partners.
Yes.
Uncles, in inverted commas, coming home every night.
Yes,
different uncles.
Fast and loose, especially with the truth. Yes.
And speaking of, Peter, you talk about Kevin Rudd, currently in the middle still, I guess, of the honeymoon period. Do you think that election night might indeed be wedding night for Kevin, and we could see Kevin and Julia enjoying a post-coital cigarette?
That's a shocking thought. I don't even want to imagine that, but it's there is a honeymoon going on. It's in a sense that's sort of old news. We know that Kevin Rudd is the most popular opposition leader in the 35 years of continuous opinion polling in this country. What we don't know is what happens when it ends and where the numbers settle. Anything is possible.
Now, you know, the article is called How to Win the 2000 Election. What do you see as the tone of this year's election? What strategy do you think Labor will adopt early? What strategy will we adopt early? And I guess the central question is, how soon into the campaign can we start demonising illegal immigrants?
Well, it's never too early in an election season to start demonising illegal immigrants.
That is great news.
But look, the reason that the mummy-daddy thing is relevant, and in answering your question about what are the great themes in this election season, the reason it's relevant is that there's a theory, and this was written about quite convincingly by Paul Keating's former chief of staff, a bloke called Bill Botel, that because at the federal level of power in Australia, the main functions are daddy functions, and that is national security and national prosperity, that it's a natural fit with the Conservative Party, that helps explain why they're in power for 11 years continuously at the federal level, but at the state level, and state governments are mainly responsible for service delivery, that Labor seems to be entrenched at the state level all around the country. So now how does that answer the question, what are the great themes of the federal election this year? Well, since the anti-Keating election of 96, John Howard has framed every election as a referendum on one of two issues, either on the economy or on national security, or both.
Yes.
And he's already started to do the same again, and he's going to do it all the way through to election day.
Of course. Well, we're in very good hands with him.
Yes.
And we should say that.
Interesting there that you mentioned Paul Keating and how he, in many ways, is being, quote, brought in from the cold nowadays with the Labor Party. And he found, I believe he found the transition out there quite easy. He has ice in the veins already.
Yes.
Are we going to see more of that? Are we going to see more tips of the hat to Paul Keating and some of his legacy?
Yes.
If you could call it that.
It took Labor a long time. In fact, I think I've called this the most serious misjudgment of political strategy that the Labor Party has conducted, and there have been a few, but I think this is easily the worst. Because when Keating was thrown out of government by Howard...
Comprehensively March 1996.
Exactly. That at that point, Keating was really on the nose. He was very unpopular. And in their efforts to run away from Keating's unpopularity, the Labor Party ran so far away that they also ran away from all the good stuff of the Hawke-Keating years. They ran away from the fact that it was the Labor government and the reforms of Hawke and Keating that reversed Australia's long and rather dismal trajectory into a sort of genteel national poverty. Hawke-Keating reversed that, created the foundations for the economic boom that the country's had for the last 16 years. But Howard gets the credit for that. Howard takes credit for it.
Yes,
he's been there for 11 years.
Yes.
And who can remember now that it was Labor that started it, especially when Labor spent 10 years not wanting to talk about it because they were so anxious to get away from the Paul Keating image.
Now, at the moment, the government in some quarters is seen to have an environmental Achilles heel over the whole global warming issue. But I want to know your thoughts on this, Peter. I will tie it in this week to Snoop Doggy Dogg not being let into the country. He is a very heavy smoker of dope. Very heavy smoker of dope. Why do people not realise that by not letting him in, we are in fact able to meet our emission targets under Kyoto?
Yes, I can see your point.
If we had signed that dreadful treaty.
I can see your point. There's an environmental purpose to keeping him out of the country.
Yes.
Really, you guys do some extremely interesting lateral thinking. I must come on your show more often. It's good for me.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot and say, who do you think will win, and what issue will prove decisive?
Well, it's at the moment we're still in Rudd honeymoon, and everyone says Rudd's going to win, and indeed he could well win. But you have to remember that Howard went into the last two election campaigns well behind in the polls.
Yes.
That when Howard brings the campaign around to his issues, there aren't... on most issues in federal politics, people think the Labor Party will do a better job. There are only two issues where they convincingly say, decisively say that the Howard government will do a better job.
Yes.
And that's the economy and national security. So Howard's only got two cards, but he's got the trump cards of Australian politics. And if he plays them and plays them hard and Rudd can't counter them, Howard will probably win again. But the good news for Rudd is that Rudd knows this, and Rudd's working hard to recover some economic credibility for Labor and some street cred on national security.
Yes, and Dancing with Kerry Ann will do that.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yes, exactly. It's great for credibility, isn't it? So, look, at the moment, you would have to say, look, the scary thing for Labor is they've just gone through this, are still living through this extraordinary honeymoon, the Rudd honeymoon, and yet still on those two core issues of national economy and national security, Howard is still well ahead. Now, that really should be sending chills through the veins of the Labor Party. So you would have to say that unless Rudd can change that, Howard will probably win this election.
Yes. I enjoyed Rudd's attack on Howard being stuck in the days of Leave It to Beaver, and this from a man who's not changed his haircut since 1916.
A whole bunch of American references in that speech as well.
Yes.
Also known as the death rattle of the Labor Party.
Yes.
Some of the things, Earth being flat and what have you. Elvis flipping burgers in Florida. Who's writing for him? Bruce Valanche? What's going on?
I think quite a few of those lines are Kevin Rudd's own handiwork.
Yes, probably, yes. Such as the destruction of the economy if he gets into power. Peter, you've been more than illuminating the article Bipolar Nation, How to Win the 2007 Election. It is in the quarterly essay. If you can scrounge up $14.95 or go into a bookshop, have your best friend fake an epileptic seizure while you steal one, put one into your trench coat and walk out feigning ignorance.
Right.
You, as a Triple J listener, will be able to get your hands on a copy. Good luck, and thank you very much, Peter, for joining us on Triple J's Restoring the Balance.
And they say Triple J isn't good for national values.
We're doing our best. We are doing our best.
Thanks, fellas.
A fitting end point to the interview. Thank you, Peter. Restoring the Balance on Triple J. You're with Spencer and Stirling. We're bringing you 2 hours of conservative comment, badly needed, on a radio station awash with rampant leftism.
That's true.
And the attendant untruth. As I pointed out on the program last week, more often than not, he will take CDs that he's given by record companies and he will go to the Kensington market in Sydney and he will sell them there.
The ones that
he
say
will sell them.
Not for resale.
Not for resale, quite clearly written on them. He sells them there and pockets the money. And as he pointed out to me when he was at work and drunk, he quite often copies them and that's what we play.
It's a hidden perk.
If you're Richard Kingsmill, you can get away with that sort of thing. You will recall, Spencer, a couple of weeks ago on the show, we announced that Melanie Howard, the daughter of our Prime Minister, is heavy with child.
Congratulations. Snap, actually. Same with my wife, Nadine. She's not showing yet. It's been 5 months, but she's not. She will show eventually, I'm sure of it. Just believing in Christ, and we know it's going to happen. We don't need scientific evidence for that nonsense. We know that she's pregnant.
It is... perhaps a medical first, the world's first faith-based pregnancy. Nonetheless, we have exhorted Triple J listeners to come up with a name for Melanie's child when that precious bundle of joy arrives. And I would urge the Prime Minister to, be it only for a day, on that particular day, bump up the baby bonus to some $20,000 or $30,000.
That's a wonderful idea.
Because I would gladly have one of my companies, if they pay tax, I would happily get them to contribute to that.
And I think maybe, I mean, I could be crazy here, but he could be deserved of his very first day off.
Yes.
In 11 years.
Not having had one in that time.
To celebrate the birth, hopefully, of his grandson.
Now, we do, of course, pray fulsomely for a male child. The Prime Minister having 2 sons, his loins issuing 2 male heirs and only the 1 female, that being Melanie. We've asked you, the Triple J listener, while not drooling over your pornography on the computer or downloading songs illegally or buying explosives on eBay.
In the chat rooms.
Yes, if you could email us with a name for Melanie's child. A Jay Beerling has got onto us. What happens, heaven forbid, if the fruit of Melanie's loins is a girl? I suggest the following options. Boudicca, I don't fully understand that one.
Sounds a bit Eastern.
Or it could be Maxine, lest we forget or choose to remember as appropriate, the epic challenge faced by the child's grandfather. Of course, Maxine McHugh.
Yeah.
Former ABC staffer, who, of course, is running for what party?
Yes, the ALP.
The ALP.
As we know, and she was whining and dining at the ALP conference, I think, rubbing shoulders. The West Farmers and Telstra, plonking down good hard money, probably on the dressing table for the political lap dance of having a quick chat with either Kevin or Maxine.
Yes. We should be very wary, of course. The union movement will spend millions of dollars attacking the workplace reforms, and we should be very wary when it comes to the ALP of the fact that they are beholden to sectional interests.
Yes.
And thankfully the Australian Business Council on behalf of the Liberal Party will launch ads alerting us to that.
Indeed.
And we thank them for doing that. Now, another another name that's been suggested, I think this is tongue-in-cheek. It's from Michael. He says, Benito Mussolini Howard, after the inspirational fascist leader of 1922-43. I would beg to differ if you are being sarcastic there. Anyone who lives in Sydney would pray that Mussolini was in charge. The trains would run on time.
Yes, they would. Anyone would be better than Yema.
And you would gladly cede your civil liberties for the opportunity, for the right to arrive to work on time.
I think Benito would be a good man.
I think he would too. Speaking of the Howards, we were thinking, Spencer and I were chatting as we often do, and we like to imagine at any given moment what John Howard is doing.
Well, I wonder what he's doing right now.
I would say still at work, as Mussolini was.
Of course.
He would no doubt be at work preparing the budget, steering the ship of state through the stormy waters in which we find ourselves during this war on terror. If and when he does relax, with what movie? This is where the topic turned between us.
Well, as a discerning gentleman, as are we both, I mean, my favourite is Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood. For me, that's just my personal, that's just a me thing.
An uplifting movie.
I know that perhaps he is a fan of 6 Feet Under. I'm not sure why.
Yes.
But I
Rachel
think
Griffith.
That possibly could be, although this week, I believe, the 10-year anniversary of her running topless through Crown Casino in Melbourne is some sort of feeble protest. I'm not sure if he's into it for those reasons.
Yes, I don't know why anybody would mount such a protest.
But I think Fatty Finn, maybe the movie from the 80s,
yes,
starring a young Ben Oxenbould.
Yes.
And Bert Newton as well.
Bert Newton,
I
yes.
mean, apart from the Bob Ellis connection, he wrote the script and also the novelisation of the film.
Yes.
But it's a wonderful story of a young man growing up in Depression-era Australia,
yes,
saving up to buy his first crystal set.
Radio. Radio.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, radio. The crystal set to listen to Don Bradman playing In the Ashes over in England.
Outstanding.
And it's a wonderful story, and I'm sure an inspirational story, and I'm sure that our Prime Minister indeed found himself perhaps in Fatty Finn's shoes.
Well, being the self-confessed cricket tragic that he is,
yes,
he's no doubt watched the Bradman mini-series as well, which was on many years ago.
Gary Sweet.
If you'd like to, I guess, proffer your guess as to what the Prime Minister likes to watch, what movie do you think would be his favourite?
Were you suggesting earlier Breaker Morant?
Breaker Morant, yes, a stirring tale of Australian resistance to inflexible British command that at the same time does not undermine the relationship between our two great countries.
No, Saving Private Ryan, an uplifting story.
Yes. Yes.
Of how the US were in the Second World War from the very start.
Yes.
And
fact, fought alone.
Yeah, that's right.
On the Western Front with no help. 1300 055536. 1300 055536. If you'd like to guess what you think is the Prime Minister's favourite movie, you can SMS us 1975 7555. The ABC needs to move beyond the year 1975. Obviously they can't. 1975 7555. Restoring the balance on Triple J. It is Restoring the Balance. So we are asking if you could guess what John Howard's favourite movie is. Favourite movie. When the man relaxes, and we... Spencer and I sat down and we tried to imagine a situation in which the captain of the ship of state would ever take his hand off the wheel for a moment.
He is always alert. He never really has any downtime. I mean, I imagine he would sleep 3 to 4 hours a night, possibly.
With one eye open.
That's right. You never know.
But if he was to watch a movie, what movie would that be? Conan from Cairns?
I think that would be the Meryl Streep movie, Silkwood.
Silkwood. Oh, okay. Now, talk us through the plot of that movie, Conan.
Well, it's about the disaster at the 4 Mile Island nuclear power plant.
4 Mile Island. It got a mile longer in the meantime, did it?
Oh, 3 Mile Island. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yes, typical anti-nuclear campaigner will just exaggerate.
Yes, and Meryl Streep and I believe Cher and Kurt Russell.
Yes.
Craig T. Nelson even taking on a small business of a nuclear power plant.
In the video store where I live, of course, you will find that particular video, Conan, under fiction.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because Johnny would obviously think that, that is a fictional film, because that sort of thing would never happen.
No.
And, with his intent on sending our country down that nuclear path,
yes,
he'd have to watch that as some sort of light relief, because, those things can't happen. Chernobyl never happened.
Yes.
But
Chernobyl was because nuclear power was in the hands of communists, which is what would happen if Kevin Rudd ran the place. We'd have 1 million Chernobyls. Yes.
Well, nuclear power is completely safe. We all know that.
Yes. I will say this. John Howard has the best interests of the country when proposing nuclear power. It's in the best interest. Well, it's not only that. It will be used as a wedge to destroy the Labor Party. The best interests of the country.
Indeed. Well, I've got a great idea then. If he's so intent on having them, why doesn't he build one in his backyard?
How do you know he won't? How do you know plans are not far progressed to build another 3 Mile Island in Kirribilli?
Have you seen that scene, Conan, where Karen Silkwood has to take one of those showers with the steel wool and the
one of the
brooms?
Scenes I think he would particularly like, because I'm sure he gets the old lady to scrub him down like that on a regular basis.
See, I feel like taking one of those Silkwood showers after I watch the footage of the ALP conference.
Yes.
And indeed, I hope they install all these green homes with one of those.
Yes, well said. Thank you, Conan.
And his cronies.
Conan, a barbarian indeed. We have other suggestions here,
Here we
Spencer.
go. Yep.
Would you like to read one out?
We have an SMS from Andrew in New South Wales.
Yes.
Chariots of Fire. The lead character, who I believe is tertiary educated, and jogging. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it's got the advantage of word economy, that SMS.
Yes.
And brevity.
Yes. Another one here, movie Deep Throat.
Yeah.
This is obviously handy to distract nation, then screwing us, apparently. 11 years of uninterrupted economic growth is apparently being screwed.
Right.
Well, let me in on that particular orgy, I say. Yes, well said by me.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole from Timmy from Newcastle, and so on and so forth, and what have you.
Yes, well, keep them coming in, 1300 0555 36, the SMS number, 1975 7555. We have a guest in the studio, though, Spencer. We have Danielle Archer. She's media spokesperson. You can say spokesman, I believe. It is from the Latin mano, to hold.
Oh.
You simply hold a chair. That would be a chairman. So, therefore, a spokesman. Let's not debate that here and now. She is also the anti-vivisection campaigner. I'm sorry, at the last minute, we could not rustle up a pro-vivisection campaigner for a balanced debate, but nonetheless...
There's plenty of them.
You're not trying hard enough.
Well, we will next time. Thank you, Danielle. From Animal Liberation Victoria. Danielle, thank you of sorts for joining us.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Danielle, what issue have you and your ratbag lefties, what are you on about now?
Look, ratbag lefties, we prefer to be known as the swampy left.
Yes.
That's, I believe, the more correct term.
Yes.
But which issue in particular, where to begin? I suppose vivisection is the one that we've got on the table for tonight.
Yes.
And what exactly is vivisection?
We're referring to animal research and testing for multiple purposes.
So you're probably down on the Japanese for researching whales then?
Well, that's a term that they use, research.
Yes.
We prefer the term slaughter.
Yes, they are researching. If you are anti-research, you're up there with all the enemies of Charles Darwin. You're anti-science. Would you put yourself in that particular bracket?
I may go that far.
Yes.
I believe that there are some very, very negative things going on in terms of what scientists are doing. And I think that we need to be mindful as consumers and as taxpayers of where our money is going and what some of these results are. If you think about animal research and testing, the results are accurate 5 to 25% of the time.
Good enough for me.
Have more like flipping a coin, really.
Yes. Now, do you yourself eat animals?
I do not, no.
You don't. Do you have a problem? Do you have a problem with the taste of animals?
It's detestable in taste. It's detestable in concept.
Not
it's
really.
Detestable in many ways to me, yes.
Because any time I've had a problem with the taste of meat, I've simply sent it back to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And said, try harder on the veal. Try harder. You didn't pound it hard enough.
You didn't keep it locked in the dark for too long.
Well,
you need to keep it in there longer.
Whatever it needs.
To me, the problem is too much adrenaline going through the meat just before.
There we go.
Yes, the coup de grace. Yes.
That's what they should do, is give them a good scare. What about fish? Because fish aren't animals, are they? You eat fish.
Apparently they have no feelings. No, fish are not vegetables.
Oh.
Well, if we ate
It's surprising. A lot of people find that surprising. I tell them, fish, chicken, they're not vegetables, and people get a bit of a shock.
But vegetables are living things.
Yes, they vote
they're not
Labour.
Sentient beings. I'm sure they would if they could. See, this is the thing. We should be giving vegetables the vote. Then we'd have an ALP government. We'd all be happy.
Yes.
Vegetables voting for vegetables.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant.
Another ratbag lefty. You have a problem with a large company, I believe. Is that true? Or surely some research on animals has produced some good, though. I mean, we couldn't have had chemotherapy if that were not tested on animals. Is that a fact you grapple with?
I wouldn't call it a fact. I think a lot of positive results have been delayed by many, many years because of animal testing. And if a particular medication is going to be beneficial to me, it will be in spite of being tested on animals, not because of it.
Yes.
For example, rats are used predominantly for testing for cancer, yet they don't actually develop the same kind of carcinomas that humans do. So I think it's 1.16% of illnesses that we see in humans, we see in animals as well. So, I mean, less than 2% are ever seen in animals.
How about my idea of, instead of testing on animals, testing on Triple J listeners?
Yes.
You might be onto something there.
Yeah, with makeup and what. Because I believe, is it L'Oreal who have taken over the Body Shop?
That's
correct.
Who are
very, right on and way to go in that regard. But what is the issue here with animals being used for testing with bath bombs and what have you? I mean, is it a problem that a beagle might smell kind of nice for a couple of weeks?
The issue here is the Body Shop is seen as, and certainly touts itself as, an organisation that is anti-animal testing. You go into their store, they've got a big sign on the wall against animal testing, yet they're owned by L'Oreal, who still use ingredients that have been tested by animals. So if you're shopping at the Body Shop, the profits that are generated through the Body Shop are going to an organisation that are essentially pro-animal testing. So we think that there's deception there.
So just to nutshell your distaste for that particular issue, makeup and animals. You are against rabbits looking like prostitutes.
Well, isn't everybody?
Well,
I'm kind of into it, but that's all on my website anyway.
Yes,
Danielle.
So, but surely the consumer can make that decision when they walk in, and that is a moral choice that they make, surely.
Absolutely, and I think with any decision, everybody has a right to make an informed decision. So people going into the Body Shop are seeing this massive big sign on the wall that says against animal testing, and I say that's simply not true.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in 2004, only 6 million animals were used in experiments. I mean, can you see that number ever coming down through some of your... well, hopefully, from your perspective, you would like to see that number come down.
Most definitely. The principles behind animal research are supposed to be, replace, refine, reuse, these sorts of things, reduce, but it's not happening. The number of animals that are being used in research and teaching and testing are actually increasing year after year after year, yet we're no closer to cures, for example, for many diseases. And that's because the weight of the world economy is behind animal exploitation. There's no money in a cure.
How about animals being used by companies advertising things? I believe there's a major communications company, Optus, and they use a fair amount of animals. These animals have no idea that they're in commercials for a major corporation.
I know, they haven't signed the authority and release form.
That's right.
They're going out there, they're filming them, they don't know.
But it's a very strange thing, isn't it? I mean, we're taking, the natural actions of these animals, they're just living innocent lives, and then what do you know, they become a spokesperson for a major company. Do you grapple with that?
Well, I think that if you're taking footage of an animal that's in its natural environment in the wild and you're not sort of impeding on it, that could in a way be seen as, I suppose, passive interaction. But the principle behind animal rights is that animals are not ours to eat, wear, experiment on or use for entertainment.
Yes, my racehorse is. It is mine.
Yeah.
Well, actually, not strictly speaking, not mine. A holding company of which I'm a director owns the horse. All profits do come back to me, though.
These are all the issues that we have to deal with day to day, especially what about the Bundaberg rum polar bear? We see a lot of commercials for that, trying to convince males to pick up young females and what have you. Interspecies mating. Is that something that you're all for?
I think that's something one Professor Peter Singer might be all for in a certain way, but we won't go there.
Another ratbag lefty such as yourself. Danielle, if people want more, or if people just want a very good laugh, where would they go to visit your website?
They would go to www.alv.org.au.
And is there any kind of love-in or antisocial activity coming up shortly that we should look out for on the news? You being hauled into the back of a paddy van, saving a defenceless mouse in the process?
I'll be doing my best, but we have weekly demonstrations in Swanston Street, which is on the main streets on Melbourne, absolutely, outside KFC every Saturday between 1 and 2 p.m.
And what has the Colonel ever done to you?
The Colonel is an evil, evil man.
Well, I don't know.
Little bow tie.
He's a military man, and he did risk his life for his country.
Yes, and he has retired. He has, as we say on this program, thrown in the refresher towel. So he's done good work. Just let him be.
Well, let him be.
We endorse the fine work of KFC.
A fantastic event.
Delicious.
And to all the hardware stores in the area, lock up your red paint. Danielle's on the prowl.
Danielle Archer, media spokesperson. and anti-vivisection campaigner for animal liberation in Victoria. She is also a trade unionist.
There we go. Which
will explain why we get the cleaners in to hose the studio down after she leaves. Danielle, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Triple J, you're with Stirling and Spencer. You're in a no-spin zone, as they would say on Hannity and Combs on Fox News, a no-spin zone. You get the truth on restoring the balance. We're asking the Triple J listener who is in full possession of his or her faculties, which places you in
the minority,
the perilous minority.
Yeah.
1300 555 36. What do you think John Howard's favourite film would be?
We've had many suggestions. Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Breaker Morant.
Yes.
Saving Private Ryan. I thought Fatty Finn.
Yes. It was
a great story of...
It was an excellent suggestion. I would suggest A Bridge Too Far. For those who don't know, Operation Market Garden, a brave attempt by the British forces in World War II to liberate Europe from the grip of Nazi tyranny.
But the thing is, with today's young people, especially the Triple J listeners, it's very difficult for them to even know what you're talking about.
Yes, they'd say World War II, oh, that was that one in Vietnam.
Yeah, what was that?
Yes.
What was that all about?
Yes.
Why is everyone getting up early? It's called dawn service.
Yes.
Or Dern service.
Rename it at your will, Spencer. We have Sean from Ambrose, Sean Ambrose, Port Botany Bay. He's weighed into this. He's weighed into it. He's suggesting waterfront.
Would that be on the waterfront? Is that what he's...
Yes. So with, I think, Marlon Brando. Of course, the remake should be Waterfront Reform, starring Peter Reith.
I'm sure he would love that. In fact, directed, if memory serves, by Elia Kazan.
A friend of Conservatives.
Yes, a true American. A true patriot and a great American.
Yes.
A man who named names for the House of Un-American Activities Committee.
Senator John McCarthy there.
Yes.
Served...
he did the fine work, so I'm sure, John Howard.
Yes, rooting out communists. Of course, the entertainment industry then as now, in the 1950s, then as now, plagued with people.
Liberals.
Demented with the ideology of the left. And the House of Un-American Activities sought to root them out. And I would urge John Howard to instigate a similar ongoing rolling committee here, the House of Un-Australian Activities.
I think that's great.
To root them out of the ABC. You would, of course, be left with two people at the ABC if you expunged from the organisation all those who held views of the left. Those two people are Spencer and Stirling.
That's right. Would be the only ones left, waving the flag.
Yes. We have a caller, do we? We have. Who have we got? We've got somebody, Big Daddy, I believe.
Good evening.
Well, this can't go horribly wrong. Big Daddy.
Good evening.
Yes.
My name is Big Daddy Dumbo, and I weigh 350 pounds.
Yes.
I admire your program, and I have a suggestion for our esteemed Prime Minister's favourite viewing habits.
Yes.
I think that he would possibly be well indentured to the film Saving Private Ryan, especially the first 15 to 20 minutes.
Yes.
I can see a solution for our current problem, taking the worst and dumbest people that speak French, for example, and putting them onto a foreign beach and blowing them into the next millennium.
Well, I will, on a point of order there, Big Daddy, there were no French on the beach that day. They were behind the lines collaborating. They certainly weren't there storming the beaches.
But what about that dude that spoke French? The guy that recited the Edith Piaf song? That little jungle bunny that flipped out and lost his cajones in the last struggle.
Cajones. Yes,
is the correct.
Would that we could discuss films with you all night, Big Daddy, but you probably have a KFC burger waiting for you somewhere.
You probably got Spoon Man online too.
Yes.
Is that right, Big Daddy?
Yes.
Or my SUV.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And, well, congratulations for making it on air.
Well done.
Yes.
Saving Private Ryan, indeed.
Yes. Well, I will say, there's a week's worth of promos.
That's great. It was great stuff.
Yes.
It was a good unload. Bad Boy Bubby was another suggestion.
Yes, Best of the Glass House. Of course, we've jettisoned that show from the lineup of the ABC, and one of the best things outside of politics has ever done. Fave song from Big Things, Little Things Grow.
Paul Kelly.
Yes, Irish Catholic. No doubt is probably face down,
drunk.
In lying in state, as I call it, face down in a puddle of his own vomit. Write a song about that, Paul Kelly.
And Boogie Nights is another suggestion.
Which
everybody is born with one special thing, and for John Howard, that thing is leading the nation with a clear head and some amazing ideas.
Beautifully put, restoring the balance. When grammar plays, the public school's excitement quite intense prevails amongst the barrackers assembled round the fence. They watch with blazing eyes the shifting fortunes of the fray. They urge their battling comrades on, and this is what they say. Hurrick, hurrah, hurrick, hurrick, hurrah. Grammar, grammar, hurrick, hurrah. The battle may be hot, but whether it is or not, it matters not to jot to sons of grammar.
Fills the heart with pride.
Yes. I had to loosen the tie to sing along to that one. That is, of course, my old school song from Shaw.
I like the fact that you still wear your school tie in as well.
It's
a nice touch.
We are at work. What we do is work. And I don't know anybody in my circle of friends who doesn't go to work without wearing a suit. It's just what's done.
That's right. How are the old scholars?
Yes.
Are they good?
All in very good form. Very good form. And out with Penny tonight. And we were apparently going swimming. Or she mentioned something about water sports. I had a look.
Okay.
And I'm laughing because
yes.
I went looking for her bathing cosy and it was still at home.
Yeah. Maybe it's a different... Well, anyway, I'm sorry to have brought it up. I'm sorry about that. John Howard's favourite movie. We're having some interesting suggestions from the Triple J listenership.
Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
I don't know why. I mean...
Probably someone calling in with daddy issues, I'd suspect.
Yes. Animal Farm has been suggested. It says because he was inspired by the pigs. Now, that is, of course, a tale of warning from George Orwell about the dangers of fascism and communism, about any kind of monolithic ideology. And it is a book that we would heartily recommend.
Interesting. We're asking for films. So someone doesn't know that it was a book, actually, before it was a film.
Yes, and I believe an animated film.
That's right, it was.
Many years ago.
It's a good one for the kids, actually.
Yes, the kids would like it. Borat. I haven't seen it myself.
No, I'm not sure.
It looks idiotic.
Yeah.
A Beautiful Mind. He, of course, does have a beautiful mind. He's
inspiring
John
story.
Howard. Yes.
From a great thinker, Nash.
Yes.
And had some interesting thoughts.
Yes. Now, Spencer, you've turned your mind towards religious matters for this week.
Of course, coming from Family First, Yvonne Ridley. Have you heard of her?
Yes, a spewer of filth who was in the country a couple of weeks ago.
Well, she gave a talk on something she called Islamophobia. She's accused Australians of being the worst Muslim haters in the world, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Being among the worst Muslim haters in the world. Who she is, she's an investigative reporter who was held captive by the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2001. And then 2 years later, she's converted to Islam. That's who she is, Yvonne Ridley. Not really the kind of talk that you want around this time. We had Easter a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Who wants to be hearing about Islamophobia around this sort of spiritual time of the year, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
She says that she has visited Australia 20 times in the past 3 years.
Yes.
And says that interfaith relations are at their worst yet. And in particular, she says there's been deterioration in the good vibes towards Muslims, creating what she calls Islamophobia.
Yes. Should we perhaps be as tolerant then as her friends in Afghanistan, the Taliban, who of course have run numerous ecumenical religious festivals and confabs, if you will. Of course, a bunch of people only too well known for their broad-mindedness.
Yes.
And willingness to embrace other faiths.
That's true.
Yes, we should be more like them.
Well, the key phrase here from Yvonne Ridley, for my money, is that Australia is among the worst.
Yes.
Among the worst. But we're not as bad as, say, the US and the UK, France. So the hidden message here is that there's more work to do, Stirling.
So she comes over here and she effectively says, we could try harder.
That's right. We're not number one yet, but with some real effort, we can be the worst. I like the way she thinks. It's something to aim for. I mean, really, at the moment, we have Islamophobia, I think, Stirling. Yvonne Ridley. Great thinkers, among the worst. Come on, Australia, let's try harder.
We are, I would say, an open and tolerant society. She, of course, was allowed to come to this country and say all that.
Yes.
We allowed that. And having seen a picture of her, I would I say this advisedly, any husband of hers would gladly volunteer for a suicide bombing mission.
It's an interesting point.
Yes. In fact, listening to her nagging would feel compelled to blow himself up in the toilet. I think go in with a copy of the Karachi Times and a box of matches and let God's handiwork do the rest. This is Restoring the Balance. It has been, of course, another 2 hours of no spin, 2 hours of the truth. And we will, of course, be back next week. We would like to thank our guests tonight, Alan Jones, the esteemed broadcaster, Daniel Hartcher, the insane left-leaning ratbag from Animal Liberation.
It's a bit weird.
Bill Grain, who is the founder and president of rightmarch.com. Visit it now.
Great man.
And we would also like to thank Peter Hartcher for talking about how the coalition will win the 2007 election due later this year.
Not sure
Restoring
how
the Balance, Triple J.
Triple J.